name is Denise Orpustan-Love. I'm a college professor and an author. I researched, created, and synthesized the 7 pathways, the beliefs and the ways of life of the ancient Basques. My father was born and raised in the Basque Country in southwestern France. He was the only one in his family of 6 children to leave the Basque Country to immigrate to the United States. He came, like many Basques at that time in the early 1960s, to California and to the West. He came to the Sierra foothills to herd sheep and be a sheep herder for 2 years alone in the mountains. Sadly, my father disappeared when I was just a baby, and his body was never found, and it's a mystery that remains unresolved to this day. My father's mysterious disappearance inspired in me a lifelong desire to understand the Basque culture, their spiritual traditions, and their ancient ways of life. The 7 pathways translate the beliefs and ways of life of the ancient Basques into universal and perennial, continuous and renewing pathways to strengthen the major areas of life. The 7 pathways have been practiced and lived for thousands of years. The Basque culture has remained intact despite countless invasions over hundreds and thousands of years. The 7 pathways are embodied, they are lived, and they are embedded within the ancient Basque culture. The 7 pathways are a guide to the ancient perennial wisdoms and messages rooted in the ancient Basque world. But they are universal to cultures worldwide. These pathways provide points of light on a guided journey toward greater health and wellness, closer to the partnership with the natural world and closer to our own innate wholeness. Some of the pathways are obvious and seen, and others are more hidden and only felt. These pathways are not new to us, they are not new age, nor did I invent them. I'm simply integrating them to bring greater awareness so that we can begin to emphasize more fully these aspects in our lives. They are as old as the rock, the river, the tree. They are our birthright, our cellular DNA, the life force within all of us that is not forgotten. Our beings remember. 7 Pathways in One is a guide to remember our being, to balance the future with the past, what is possible with what is known, what is bright with what is dark. There is plenty of darkness all around us in the world. We need more light. These 7 pathways help guide us to the light within ourselves, mirrored and found within the perennial wisdoms from the natural world. As my late mentor Angeles Arrien wrote, the 7 pathways are so obvious we are blinded by them. The 7 Pathways in One are a map to guide us home so we may shine our light to help others in present and future generations. The 7 pathways are one light in one world with one spirit we know as love.
And the wheels are out.
What? And the wheels are out. Oh my God! Mom, don't get ran over by a cow. They did it! Oh my God! I'm so happy! They did all this without even telling me. They did the roof, they restored the walls, it's all a surprise. Just the thought of this being a livable house again, it's just like, yeah, the ultimate dream.
See these funnels right here, Matt?
And that's for the water from the...
So this would have been a door that they opened up to let the water flow through this after this canal filled up, and the pressure would have powered the wheel.
The way of wholeness is the pathway which integrates the physical and spiritual worlds. The ancient Basques believed that the physical world was part of an upper world that included the stars, the sky or heavens, the sun, moon, thunder, lightning, and plants found in nature. The underworld or subterranean world was the place where spirits lived. They believed that the spirit world and the ancestor spirits existed within the earth and below it. The spirits communicated through particular points of entry, routes, or pathways within the house. The upper and underworlds were completely integrated. Thus, one's everyday physical life, daily activities, and spiritual life beliefs were intertwined and inseparable. Even today in the Basque Country, to be part of the spirit world is to live fully within the physical world, and to be part of the physical world is to live fully within the spirit world. This integrated world is a reflection of the whole, united aspects of ourselves.
These are amazing. These are the original wheels. 3 original wheels. I'm so happy I'm gonna lay on my wheel. I'm laying on my wheel. Oh. Yay, I'm so happy.
Children are thought to be whole in the Basque culture. The inner spirit within a child possesses all the qualities adults aspire to obtain within themselves. Children, by their innate nature, are hopeful, courageous, honest, peaceful, beautiful, balanced, and in harmony with all beings. Children are full of trust, faith, love, and pure wisdom. It is the Basque way to dream and be silent in them, to learn from them and let their messages carry forth on their life path, influenced by the ancestors. It is also the way of the Basques to have spirit guides or guardians. Again, their truth is found within those precious moments of silence when a story is told, and finding the meaning is the test of the listener. One must look deep, one must believe. The Basques have looked and listened for these signs for thousands and thousands of years, seen beyond the surface, listening to the beautiful song birds sing as the mountains disappear behind the glow of the setting sun. When the night falls and you are alone with your spirit, that is where you will find your spirit guide, or rather where your spirit guide will find you. The way of the ancestors is the way of relationships. It represents the archetype of the teacher and the visionary. The ancestors are never forgotten for the Basques. Communication and lifelong connections with ancestor spirits are at the central heart and essence of Basque mysticism. The connections that exist between the living and the dead are often hidden and expressed through story, ritual, song, dance, and symbol. The ancestors are openly honored in the Basque culture. Above the hearth, pictures are often displayed of those who have passed. There are yearly memorials that honor the dead. Even more important than those visible displays of honor are the hidden, deeper ways the ancestors are integrated into everyday life. To honor the ancestors is to honor life, and the good, beautiful, and true within all beings. On the pathway of wholeness, the individual integrates the spirit and physical world on a personal level through inner exploration, ritual, and experience. On the pathway of the ancestors, the individual becomes part of the integrated network of relationships with family and friends and deceased ancestor spirits. The Basques have a very objective view of life and death. They literally believe that the ancestors act as living guardians and guides. Remaining connected with ancestor spirits allows one to live the best life possible right now. The relationship with ancestor spirits is reciprocal. The ancestor acts as a guardian of personal healing and helps the living to find inner peace. The Basques are an oral culture who rely heavily on ritual to resolve past losses. If there is a spirit caught between two worlds, either living or deceased, the spirit needs a bereavement ritual, a nature-based ceremony, a funeral, or a mass for closure. In ancient times, ceremonies took place in nature and near the house. The women were the priestesses. The women of the house and their first neighbor were responsible for worship and blessings. These women conducted bereavement rituals, often just outside the house and in the garden. Children who died were buried beneath the eaves of the house in what was called the Garden of Women. The practice existed until the 20th century. As churches were built, these ceremonies connected the house to the church. There was a specific road used to carry the dead to their funeral, which linked the house directly to the church. As Christianity became the primary religion, these ceremonies, led by females and linked to the house and nature, slowly died out. The way of the house represents home life and identity and reflects the archetype of the visionary. Basques still identify themselves by the name of their house, a structure that to the Basques shall never be sold but kept as the sacred entryway to their ancient mysterious heritage. The house is the primary symbol and physical manifestation of contemporary Basque mysticism. The Basque house is named, not numbered. Each house has a name that gives it a separate importance from individuals and families who inhabit it. The Basque house is the central figure of one's identity in the village. My father was known as Benyat Iroshbeharia, more than Benyat Orpustan, as the name of the house you are from is more significant than even the family name. This ancient tradition continues to this day. Long after generations have passed, the house and its name still lives. The house prevails over those who live in it. Families are buried together in tombstones bearing the names of their house, not their last name. This burial practice signifies this extreme importance the house has on Basque culture. The Basque house is the sacred center of family and community life, in modern as well as ancient times. It is the supreme entity that integrates the physical upper world, the spirit world, subterranean or underworld, the ancestors, and the land. The house lies under the universe and communicates with the spirits of the underworld through ducts and secret passages. The house is much more than a physical structure. It is more than just a place for worship, work, rest, and play. It is the place where rituals take place from birth to death, the visible structure where the invisible spirit world comes alive. The rituals of the house provide the initiations and rites of passages along life's journey. The way of the land. The way of the land is about belonging, protection, and life's work, reflected in the archetype of the visionary and the warrior. If the house reflects the inner room of the soul, then the land is where the soul finds belonging through compassionate service and work. The self shines underneath the glowing rays of the Pyrenees sun when it is grounded to the sacred messages of the earth, the home, and the ancestors. The house is where dreams and discoveries are born. It is a place of rest, nurturance, and renewal, a sacred temple cave. The land is an extension of this cave, representing our outer selves, visible in the upper world. The land is where we begin to manifest our dreams through carrying out our life's work. In many ways, our best selves are expressed by the way of the land, for it is the first time on a long and often difficult journey where we feel a sense of deep and timeless belonging to a greater purpose than our own. The highest compliment that was ever paid to me was given to me by a Basque friend of mine. He told my family after a visit to Papa's mill house one afternoon that I can tell she is Basque by the way she looks at her land. For the Basques, the land is not something to be bought or sold. It is something to protect and care for. Land is a part of one's soul that cannot be separated from the ancestors in the home. By following the bright light of the sun's rays that birth new life in gardens, pastures, and mountaintops, you begin to see a new life purpose outside the inner walls of your cave. You feel an eternal sense of peace and beauty. You begin to sow your own seeds by rooting yourself in the wisdoms of the earth, by listening to her messages and caring for her in the same way she cares for you. The land is the pathway that guides you to the fullest expression of yourself through good deeds, service, and manifesting your life's work.
I feel like a warrior.
It is the love one feels for the land that is the lasting bond tying the living to the ancestors. This connection to the ancestors, expressed through the love of land, is the powerful force that heals the pain, emptiness, and voids of unresolved loss. The love of the land is a direct pathway for communicating with past spirits, essential for resolving inner conflicts and finding complete unity and wholeness of self with Mother Earth. The return to the womb of the great Mother Earth brings a sense of protection and belonging, offering new hope and meaning to life after great struggle and challenge.
If you don't feel something here, you're not going to feel something anywhere. And this is the place of dreams.
The day I first met my father's spirit by his ancient mill house in the Basque Country, I knew that the land was the secret pathway to understanding the mystery of my father's death, but more important, to understanding the mystery of life. I only know my father by the way I know his love for the Basque Country. His passion for life, tenacity, patience, and enduring spirit live on through the love he felt and the love I feel for this land. This love for the land, the Basque Country, our homeland, is what sustains the human spirit through life's trials and bridges the wisdoms of the ancestors to the living. The way of the village is represented by a Basque word called ordina, meaning the blue ring of life. It reflects the community, life purpose, and meaning, and corresponds with the archetype of the warrior. Ordina is the Basque word for the color blue. There is a deep, larger meaning to ordina. It refers to the blue ring of life, or the web of relations or connections. Characterized by the symbol of the spiral, the blue ring of life represents the growth and evolution of all living things. The blue ring of life of Ordina represents the sacred feminine. She is the womb, the flow of blood in your veins. She is even life itself. She is the water that breaks at birth and the tides that flow in and out from her ocean shore. She is the instinct of a parent, the courage to birth new life. Ordina is the first pulse of a baby's heart and the last breath this life will someday take. She is the sky, the horizon, and the space in between. She flows within the currents of the river stream, sometimes pushing herself upward against the forces of life, sometimes gliding effortlessly toward the tranquil pool of water below. Ordina asks us to listen to those underlying currents of life and to understand how these currents speak to our heart, so we may give back what we have been given. We must become the river, so we can spill forth the truths of our soul as to why we are here and what we are here to do. Women in the Basque Country are the masters of the blue ring of life. Women are revered as the mistress of the house. The house is passed to the eldest child, male or female. If the female inherits the farm or braceria, her husband and children often take the name of the house as their last name. She manages the money, the home, and equally shares in the decisions of the farm. Her tie to the house grants her significant power in the Basque culture. She is the matriarch of her temple, the house. And in the Basque world, the house is everything: identity, belonging, and purpose. Because of the woman's tie to the house, she is the center of community life. In times past, she was the priestess and the community liaison, or shaman, who cared for newborns, the sick, the aged, and the dying. Today, she continues to act as mother, wife, aunt, sibling, sister, friend, community leader, and healer. She is the ultimate role model of Ordina. Thus, to live within the blue ring of life is to live by example. It is to be perceptive and intuitive, while having the courage to speak the truth and live in alignment with your beliefs. Like the relationship between the blue of the sky and the blue of the ocean, Ordina represents the imagination, perceptions, and understanding. Life is not entirely black or white, nor are the many colors of the rainbow always obvious to the human eye. The way of two worlds is the pathway of life transitions and healing from loss. It is represented by the archetype of the warrior and healer. The way of two worlds offers a pathway for how to cope with life's major transitions. The wisdom principles, inner qualities, and ways of healing of this pathway come from understanding the ancient Basque beliefs and traditions related to spirits caught between two worlds. The Basque believe that certain ancestor spirits are caught between two worlds, the physical world and the spiritual one. It is believed that the goddess Mari, the ancient Basque goddess of rebirth and regeneration, is the messenger of the way of two worlds. She is the goddess of the underworld, who rises up to send important messages from the dead to the living. Her messages happen in patterns of 3. These 3 events can happen quickly or span many years. The messages are always tied to 3 things: death, birth, and rebirth. Mari, the prehistoric pre-Christian goddess of death, destruction, reformation, and regeneration, was a prophetess who ruled over moral conduct and natural phenomenon such as hail, wind, drought, lightning, and rainstorms. She is known as the vulture goddess, tomb goddess, and regenerator of life who appears in multiple shapes. It is believed that Mari lived in the mountainous and wild caves and chasms of the subterranean or underworld of the Basque Country. Mari is also associated with the moon. The house is the ancient temple that links the living to the dead, caught between this world and the other. It is the place where the deceased pass through in a transitional state before entering the next world. There are many ancient traditions in the Basque Country that aid in this transition. In the past, it was custom to open the window or remove the roof tile at the moment of death so the soul could exit the house. The custom has fallen into disuse, but many still believe the souls of the dead may frequent the household or neighborhood before departing. The communication with ancestor spirits is so directly tied to the house that it is sometimes thought that the house actually speaks to them. One believes that the dead will come back to visit the house if the living have left offerings of food or other special items for them. One ancient offering is linked to the family beehive. Offerings are placed before the beehive, and it is believed that souls of the dead return in the form of honeybees. The bees are warned that a death has occurred by the mistress of the house and to prepare a visitation of ancestor spirits. When spirits return to the house, they are not able to see anymore. The house is not the same as they imagined it. They break the mirrors as a sign that they are present. When these spirits do present themselves in the home, it is important not to be afraid. Never turn your back on them. Intermediaries are always active, alive in the shadows. They are known as the breath deeply exhaled, or the mysterious activity in the room behind the church. The dead do not disappear. Even the church does not dispute that these intermediary spirits exist. The way of the universe is the way of health, life legacy, and universal love. It is represented by all four archetypes: the way of the healer, the visionary, the teacher, and the warrior. For the Basques, the way of the universe manifests in the blessings of everyday activities in life. In ancient and contemporary times, the basic simple ways they eat, sleep, work, and celebrate in concert with nature is their greatest blessing. The mystical is found within these everyday activities and practical experiences of life. For centuries, the Basques have mastered how to eat quality whole food, slowly, sharing it with those they love as a symbol of their love and generosity. They work hard because it sustains them economically, but also because it sustains their physical and mental health. Their way of life is deeply rooted and ingrained within their cells and their spirits. They know that food, sleep, work, and celebratory rituals are to be savored like robust red wine and sheep cheese. As they protect and preserve their ancient daily practices, they equally protect and preserve their most valuable blessing, health. The Basque culture has endured for several reasons. One, they have preserved their unique ancient language, Euskara. Second, they have maintained pre-Christian rituals, traditions, customs, festivals, song, and dance in their culture, both in the Old World and the New. Third, they have protected their land and their homes from invaders, both religious and political regimes. Last, they have continued to live their everyday lives in harmony with the earth and the natural cycles of the seasons. Western culture defines health as physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Indigenous cultures expand this definition to include an alignment of what we know, think, feel, believe, and say. In other words, when we live authentically, in tune with the earth and seasons, we are in a state of natural health and well-being. The pathway to health and wellness is how we come to finally live our life legacy. Our life dreams and life purpose manifest in each moment through an alignment and balance of our mind, bodies, and spirits. In order to inspire others to live their best life, we must first be in good health, and second, fulfill our life legacy by being a model of light and love. The symbol of the seven-pointed star is the symbol of the guiding light of universal love. Its absolute meaning is mysterious and unknown, just like love itself. I found this symbol on an ancient circular tombstone in the cemetery in Ossès, France. Some could say it reflects the 7 days of the week, the 7 provinces in the Basque Country, the 7 decimals in the ancient Basque metric system, the 7 stages of thunder and lightning in Basque mythology. I believe it speaks to all of these 7 ways and to something even greater, Basque mysticism, the universal love of all people. I remember once talking to my cousin Peo out in the field in the middle of the day at a sporting event, and I remember saying, the Basque spirit is so strong, and he said, the Basque spirit is the spirit of all people.
Oraiko For this to explain the legends, the thinking, the ways, the values of the Basque people is a very good contribution to the world, the reader, the society. It contributes to people, it makes you happy, it honors Bernard. You're taking what belonged to him and making something of it. And you want other people to enjoy it too.
That's it.